Hello, welcome to Paramusic TV. I'm Johnny Long with a special edition of Paramusic Mysteries, an update on the Oklahoma Girl Scout murders. A few months ago I did a three-part series on this case, in part because it has paranormal overtones and also in part because I come from the area that this happened and I was about 9 years old. It was just a few days after my birthday. Several days ago it was announced that the suspect that committed the crime had been identified. This was after $30,000 was raised back in 2017 to conduct these tests. Now, all of this was spearheaded by the current sheriff of Mays County, Mike Reed. In the past, there have been 2 DNA tests done on samples found at the crime scene, the main one being a pillowcase that was found with semen stains, which when tested in 1989 would indicate that 3 out of the 5 markers matched the original suspect, which was Leroy Hart, a Cherokee man from Locust Grove. The second set of tests done in 2008 yielded inconclusive results because by that point the DNA had become so degraded. Now, I'm not quite sure the techniques that they used on these new tests, but it appears there are things now that can be tested for DNA that couldn't be before. I think they used hair found on tape used in the murders. They took another sample from a fingerprint found on the flashlight that had been modified. Apparently they were able to extract DNA from the print, which was too smudged at the time to identify as an individual print. But apparently all the samples that were unavailable before still seem to come from the same source. And the closest match to that is still Leroy Hart. Now, during the time of the Girl Scout murders, Hart was an escaped convict, having escaped the Mays County Jail in 1973. Hart would become a person of interest after the Mays County Sheriff's Department compiled a list of known sex offenders in the area and found that details of his prior crime was very similar to some of the things that happened at Camp Scott. A week later, he would be officially charged for the crime, and a year-long manhunt would ensue. Hart would be captured in April of 1978. He would stand trial for the murders in 1979 and was acquitted. He would be returned to the Oklahoma State Penitentiary in McAlester, Oklahoma, to serve out the rest of his prior sentence. He would die 3 months later of a heart attack, just shy of the age of 36. To research this case is a daunting task, especially in this time before the internet. In the state of Oklahoma, transcripts from the trial are not kept in the case of an acquittal. There are some websites that have some of the pre-trial transcripts which are available. But if this is true, and indeed it is Leroy Hart, the main reason why this trial turned out the way it did was just simply good lawyering on the part of Leroy Hart's defense team. The very evidence that is now shown that he was actually a suspect were some of the very things that were used to get him acquitted. They were also able to keep Hart's prior crimes out of testimony, which would effectively obliterate the case that Sheriff Glenn Weaver and the OSBI had collected and was even accused of planting certain pieces of evidence that were linked with Hart. For more details on this, you can watch my prior videos, and I may make another video breaking some of these things down, but what it amounts to is that many of the things which would have implicated Hart even further would not be heard by the jury, who would acquit him. The boot prints that were found in the victim's tent, and it was a piece of evidence that during trial would also be key in acquitting Hart. At the time, it was thought that the boot print could have only been left by the killer, and the size of the boot was 9.5, and Hart, I believe, wore a size 11. Now, according to Sheriff Reed, it is now believed that this print was not left by the murderer, but more probably one of the counselors that came to check the tent after the bodies had been found. They searched the tents to see which children might be missing and left this print. Now again, you can refer to my other videos about this part of the case to see why this explanation, whether or not it's true, is very contradictory to what was reported at the time. However, I will end this by saying that I really commend Mike Reed for helping to bring at least some closure to this case. However, there are still some questions that I have, and I may devote another video to breaking down some of those points. But for now, at least we know that most likely Leroy Hart was involved in these killings.